What should you do when you miss an important deadline? Coming up. Hello and welcome back to the Freelanceverse. I hope you're all doing well. I finally recovered from my flu, I think it was. It took like weeks to get over this, but finally I'm fit and healthy again and I can really appreciate it again after such a long time. I actually had a different video planned for today. It was all set up, but then it fell through unfortunately, so I had to last minute think of something else for today. And then Martina Kobash came through on LinkedIn with a spectacular idea that I said immediately, I'm going to take this on. I'm actually going to read you the message that she sent. If you at any time have something that you are interested in, that you would like to know, make sure to send me a message on LinkedIn, and maybe it happens that I just use it like today. She actually said this could be an interesting topic for a future video. What to do when you realize you can't meet your deadline, be it for objective reasons or you simply overestimated your ability or your time management this one time. How to break it to the client, how to minimize potential penalties. Great topic, and that's exactly what we talk about today, deadlines. Now, deadlines are extremely important for freelance translators. They are basically one of our top priorities, if not the top priority, to be honest, because clients trust us that we can provide and contribute to the supply chain, right? And if we can't do that, especially agency clients, there it's extremely important because they actually trust us in regards to their end client, so they will be in trouble in the end if we can't deliver, right? So there's a lot of trust. You should always make sure to fulfill this trust and to actually meet the deadlines, or tell the people ahead of time if you can't. As I see it, there are three different types of not meeting a deadline, and they get progressively worse, if you will. Number one is simply when you work on a job and suddenly you realize, okay, this is taking me way longer than I anticipated, maybe than you anticipated or the client anticipated, both can happen. And then you tell the client way in advance, preferably not on the day of delivery, but way in advance, that this is taking way more time and you need more time to deliver. This is of course the least impactful situation, the least impactful scenario, because the PM then still has time to reassign, to find a solution, to talk to the end client, etc. Right? This actually happened to me last week again. This happens quite often. One of my bigger clients asked me to do a job and they said, we estimate it takes about 10 hours of your time. And I think I got this on Tuesday and it was due on Friday. So I thought, yeah, 10 hours, okay, I can fit this in. If like all the other stuff that I usually get from you is on hold, then I can work on this until Friday. The next day, the first Wednesday, the first day I worked on it, I spent 4 hours on this job and I only managed to complete like 20% or so. So I realized, okay, something is not right with the time management. I reached out to the client and I told them, you know, I worked 4 hours on it, I have 20%. So based on my calculation, this job will take more like 20 hours, so double what you actually estimated. And of course, that's not my fault, right? Because they gave this estimation to me and it was a weird job. It wasn't translation. It was kind of an evaluation of two different translators. So it took a lot of effort. And yeah, they said, okay, after a lot of trying out different scenarios, in the end, they said, yeah, you can deliver it on Monday. And that was it. That was fine. So that's the first least impactful scenario. Number two, what can happen that is probably the least likely, but it still can happen when there are higher powers involved, like something out of your power, right? For example, speaking of power, if your power cuts out in the house, right, then suddenly you can't deliver because you don't have electricity. If something happens with some of your family or friends and you have to rush to the hospital, if you have to go yourself suddenly to the hospital or to the doctor, whatever can happen. Like so many things can happen in the day, especially when you work from home, right? Because there are a lot of distractions at home. It can interfere with your deliveries. The good thing is that PMs are usually quite lenient with these because you have an explanation. Of course, make sure to not use this as an example, as an excuse for other reasons, right? That's anyways number one priority. Be honest, right? Just tell exactly what happened. There's no point in coming up with weird excuses and then when it actually happens, no one is going to believe you anymore. So just make sure to let them know as soon as you can, as soon as you, if you don't have electricity, just call them. As soon as you realize something will go wrong, let them know in some way. And then the number one worst scenario, of course, is just forgetting the job, right? Just not having it done. Usually you get notified either by an automated email by the client, by the system, or you get actually a personal email from the PM. Both of them are equally stressful and annoying, and it really sucks to receive them because, of course, if you haven't planned this, you forgot it for a reason, right? And of course your day then is full usually, right? But if I don't plan anything, then my day is filled with other stuff. And then if I forgot something, it messes up the whole workflow, the whole day. I get stressed, I get frustrated, I get embarrassed as well, because it's not a good business look, right? If you forgot an actual job. And there are many different reasons why you can forget a job, and you probably think to yourself, oh, this won't happen to me. I thought the same. I thought I have a very good system and this will not happen to me. I can guarantee you it will happen, and it will suck. It will feel like the worst thing ever. You will feel like you lose the client, but most of the time you don't lose them, right? A little bit of smooth talking, a little bit of excusing, apologizing, being honest, and like just properly like expressing your emotions can go a long way. The reasons for forgetting can vary, like maybe you read the wrong time zone, the client, because we work internationally, so we get a lot of different time zones, and that happens a lot to me actually, especially with like the summertime changes, you know, suddenly the difference between CET and GMT is not the same anymore, you know, and then of course overseas the time zones can vary a lot. Maybe you just wrote the wrong date on it. That's also happened to me before. There can be misunderstandings. Maybe the client didn't specifically say, I ordered this from you now, but they implies that they want it and you thought they are still discussing it. Or, you know, you just failed to write it into your order system. You really need a structured order system, and you don't need a fancy, expensive tool for that, right? I do all my order tracking in Excel. For me, that works well. Just find something that works for you. Of course, I could automate it much better, but I don't know. I got used to it. It works well. This is how I forget the least. And the least, I mean, it really happens very rarely, but when it happens, you forget about the 99% that it didn't happen because there is this one thing that went wrong, right? So how do you address it when it happens? As I said, scenario one, where it's not urgent at all, it's not bad, you just send an email, you tell them, you know, this takes way more than expected, or unfortunately tomorrow I have to go do this and this and I won't be able to complete this job. I'm very sorry for the inconvenience, but could you maybe find another translator to work on it? Could we split the workload? Could I have a more lenient deadline, etc.? The second one, unforeseen circumstances, they're just, as soon as you realize it, make sure that you are someone that can calls your client and tells them that you went to rush to the hospital, whatever, and they will be fine. That's not a big deal, right? And the worst, scenario 3, the worst situations, there you have to maybe smooth talk a little bit, right? What happens to me mostly, I get an automated email or I get a personal email from the client that I missed this deadline, and I immediately check what went wrong. Is it not in my system? Is it my fault? Because sometimes it can be their fault as well, right? You immediately check if it's your fault, and if it is, just be honest. Just tell them, I'm very sorry, I wrote the wrong time on my order management sheet. I'm very sorry, I get to it right away. Is it okay if I deliver this within the next hour if it's a small job? Is it okay if I do it today or tonight and I deliver it next morning if it's a bit bigger, right? Or if it's a huge job, then you're in trouble, right? Then you have to tell them, okay, I really forgot to do that. I'm very, very sorry. This should not happen. It happened for this and this reason. Is there something else we can do? Usually the client then says, yeah, it's okay, because you have to assume that they still have a margin of time calculated within their workflow, right? So I also worked in an agency, and how it is, you usually plan maybe 2 hours ahead from the freelancers. So if you have a deadline at 4 p.m., you have to deliver it at 4 p.m. and the agency has to deliver to the end client maybe at 6 p.m. Of course, it's not the same with everyone, but you usually have a 1 to 2 hour margin to the final delivery, because the agency also have to look through it before they deliver it. So if you are maybe half an hour, 1.5 hours late, that's usually okay. The end client won't even notice it. So maybe if it's a small job, try to argue with this. Say, I'm pushing everything I have aside so I can work on this that I forgot, so I can give you the best service. If the client is not happy with that, you have to maybe go a step further. Maybe you can tell them, okay, for this mistake that I did, you don't have to pay me for this translation, or you can pay me 50% for this, or the next one for this client I will do free of charge. Just something like this to alleviate the pain, to compensate them a bit for your mistake. So one thing to really take away from this video is there is a difference between missing a deadline and informing the client beforehand about potentially missing a deadline, right? Because then it didn't happen yet. So scenario 1 or 2, you're fine. You haven't done anything wrong. It's really only scenario 3 that you have to worry about. It will happen. It will happen maybe once in every I don't know, 500 jobs or something, and it will suck. It really sucks a lot, but you can get through it. It's not a big deal, especially if you are already in a long-term relationship with your client, right? Because then they know that usually you don't deliver like this. Of course, if it's the very first job for a client, be painstakingly sure that you know when to deliver. If it's within the first 5 jobs of a client, make sure that you know for 100% sure. And when you put it into your order management, check 5 times that it doesn't happen. So to finish this off, a few tips how you can actually avoid missing a deadline, right? Number 1 is, of course, when you get in touch with a client and they actually order something, make sure that they actually ordered it. That's one thing. They have to specifically order this from you, because if you don't go through an online system, if it's just via emails, it can be sometimes confusing if they actually ordered it or they just wanted an offer from you, for example. Then check the time zone, very important. Make sure you estimate enough time for yourself. So check the source file, check the actual service you have to do, check the difficulty of the translation. Does it take, because the translation can sometimes take 2 hours and some can take 30 minutes. It depends on the subject matter, right? I recently just yesterday I had a transcription, a subtitling job that it was 6 minutes of video. So I estimated maximum 1.5 hours of my time, right? And it took way longer because this person was talking about this and this name, this company, this magazine. So many names were in this video, and you have to check all these names so you can actually spell them correctly, right? All the names of the magazines, of the TV channels, you have to research them. And it's not easy to find all these people in the organization that you actually know their name. And there was also French names in there, which can be really hard in terms of how do you spell them versus how you speak them, how you say them, right? Before you put this into the order management system, think to yourself how much time this will cost you, and think a bit more than usual. Then have a good order management system, put it in there, mark it with some kind of color. I work with, when my job is done, I mark it green. When it's pending, I mark it yellow, and on the day when it's due, it becomes red. These are filters I set in Excel. It just automatically changes this color. So I have this 3-color system which works very well for me. When something is red, I know I have to complete this, put this to green today. If it's yellow, it's probably due tomorrow or the next day or the next month. And while actually working it, my advice would be cut the project into smaller chunks, right? Because if you have a 10-hour project and it's due on Friday and you only start on Thursday, it's almost certain that something will go wrong, right? Don't wait till the last minute. So if you can cut it into smaller chunks, if you can work 2 hours on Monday, 2 hours on Tuesday, Wednesday, etc., and then you have 10 hours completed by Friday, that's way better, because you will probably finish before the deadline, and then you still have time to ask the client questions, to go through it again, because if you have to do something in a rush, it's probably going to be bad. So make sure to work ahead. You don't need to deliver ahead. I wouldn't actually recommend. I always recommend people to deliver when the deadline actually comes up in the next few hours or something, and not way too early before. That has some different reasons. I can go into that in another video, but just don't wait too long with doing your jobs, so actually you have some time before to go through it again. I hope this video helps you, Martina, especially because you asked the question, but all of you out there. It's not the end of the world if you miss a deadline, not at all. You can easily recover from that, and it will happen to everyone. It's just a matter of how you respond to it. Be honest, be transparent, be human, because that's what freelancers are. We work on a human level, and human errors, mistakes happen, right? That's not a big deal. Just, of course, keep it as minimum as possible. If you can't miss every second deadline, you will of course get kicked out. Hope you enjoyed the video, and I see you next Monday with, is it the last video of the year? I think so. Yeah, I think it's the last video of the year, because the last Monday I will take a break. So next week with the yearly roundup. I see you then. Take care. Bye bye.